Well, good afternoon to all of you to this session of fluid mechanics. Our last class we are discussing about the surface tension, and we ultimately came to the conclusion when two immiscible fluids define an interface, then the concept of surface tension comes. That means the interface is under a stretched conditions and mechanical energy stored in the surface. That we recognize from the fact that if we create an interface, that means interface of a liquid, for example, separating a gas, then liquid molecules have to be brought from the interior of the bulk of the liquid to the surface where work is done against the inner intermolecular force of cohesion, by virtue of which a mechanical energy is stored in the surface. So therefore, the interface is in stretched condition, and surface tension is the force exerted on an imaginary line on the surface per unit length of the surface. This we appreciated in the last class. Now it is because of this surface tension effect, a curved liquid surface separating a liquid and a gas creates a higher pressure in the concave side as compared to that in the convex sides. This is one phenomenon observed. Now let us see this thing here. Let us see here. This is a curved, elemental curved liquid surface which distinguishes or separates the bulk of the liquid on its concave side. That means this side is the bulk of the liquid and this is the convex sides, this side is the air. For example, air or any immiscible fluid, any gas. So this is a small curved elemental liquid surface. Now let us see that the surface is curved in both the directions in such a way that the radius of curvature in this direction is R2, which is less, that means it is more curved, and in another direction is R1. And the lengths of the curved surfaces are such that they subtend angles of d theta 2, that means this is d theta 2, this angle is d theta 2, this is d theta 2, and this is d theta 1, this is d theta 1, this angle, d theta 1 and d theta 2 at the respective center of curvature. These are the respective center of curvature. This is R1, this is R2. This is curved in both the directions, elemental curved surface. So this side, that means the convex side, this is gas, and in the concave side is the bulk of the liquid. We only consider a small elemental curved portion of the surface. Now we see the surface tension force acts on these four sides. Now these two sides which are of radius of curvature R2, the surface tension force acts perpendicular to this linear element, you see, whose lengths are R2 d theta 2. Therefore, this force is sigma R2 d theta 2, which is written here, I think you can see. So this is the surface tension force acting, which is perpendicular to this curved element, and it is sigma R2 d theta 2. R2 d theta 2 is the length of this element. Similarly, the surface tension force which acts over these elements, these lengths, this is sigma R1 d theta 1, because the length of this curved line is the R1 d theta 1. So according to the definition of surface tension, the total force is sigma R1 d theta 1 in this direction. Now if we look, this is a three-dimensional view. If you look two-dimensional view, that means if you look from this angle, therefore we see only this part of the curve like this, where these forces acting on like this. I am showing it by only one arrow. So this is acting like this. So this is sigma into R2 d theta 2. All the forces sum up with this sigma into R2 d theta 2. So this will appear like that, sigma into R2 d theta 2. So this is d theta 1, that means you see this view. Well, so from very simple geometry you see this is d theta 1. So this angle will be d theta 1 by 2, these angles. Why? This is because this angle will be, this is 90 degree, because this is tangent, this direction. So this and this radius of curvature will be perpendicular, so these angles are 90 degree. So that this is 180 degree minus d theta 1. So therefore, these angles will be d theta 1 by 2. Similarly, if we see a view from this direction, we will see the forces are acting, which are the forces? These forces. So if you see this view, these forces are acting sigma r1 d theta 1, sigma r1 d theta 1, and these angles are d theta 2 by 2, because this is d theta 2 from simple geometry. This angle, this is d theta 2 by 2, this is d theta 2 by 2. So if you can recognize this, then a simple force balance, now let us write, assuming that the convex side of this liquid surface is acted on by an uniform pressure P0, that is the pressure of the gas which demarcates this liquid. Similarly, the interior of the liquid, the pressure is Pi, which is acting perpendicular to these surfaces, that means in its concave side, let this is Pi. Now therefore, if we make a force balance in the vertical direction, then we get the surface tension forces acting sigma R2 d theta 2 into surfaces. So 2 sigma R2 d theta 2 into sine d theta 1 by 2. Sine component. This is d theta 1 by 2 vertical direction. Similarly, the force component due to sigma r1 d theta 1 on both the sides, that means this side and this side, which is shown like this, is twice sigma r1 d theta 1 sine, well, d theta 2 by 2. And this net force in the downward direction will be balanced by the net pressure force in the upward direction. That means Pi minus P0 times the surface area over which the difference of pressure, that means each and individual pressure is acting over a surface area. So pressure force is the pressure times the surface area. So similarly, Pi into surface area minus P0 into surface area, Pi minus P0 into surface area, which is the product of these two lengths, that means R1 d theta 1 into R2 d theta 2. Now with a simple relationship from trigonometry, that for small angles, because this is a small elemental curved surface where the sides subtend small angles d theta 1 and d theta 2 at the respective centers of curvature, we can write that for small angle the sine of the angle is equal to the angle. If you see this series, the series for sine function, you will see we can neglect the higher order terms. So you can approximately write d theta 1 by 2. So you know this thing, that sine theta is theta. Similarly, d theta 2 is equal to d theta 2, because the higher order term in this series can be neglected. So if we now substitute this in terms in place of sine, that means in place of sine d theta 1 by 2, I substitute d theta 1 by 2, and in place of sine d theta 2 by 2, I substitute d theta 2 by 2, and then by simplification, I get this Pi minus P0 into R1 R2 d theta 1 d theta 2 is equal to what we get, sigma R2 d theta 1 d theta 2 plus sigma R2 into what? This is sigma R1 into d theta 1 d theta 2. So ultimately, if I replace this as delta P, define Pi minus P0, we get sigma into 1 by R1 plus 1 by R2. So this is a very, very important formula. Now therefore we see that there is the difference in pressure created. That means the concave side is having a higher pressure Pi than the convex side, where the gas is there and concave side is the bulk of the liquid, and this difference of pressure is given by the surface tension coefficient and the radius of curvature of the two sides. This is the general case of a liquid surface, liquid interface which is curved in both directions. Now special cases are there. Now first special cases. Now before coming to special cases, first I discuss that if now here we have assumed a surface which demarcates a bulk of the liquid on this side, try to understand, in the concave side, and a gas on the convex side. But if this surface is a thin liquid surface which has got in contact in both the directions, both the sides, that means convex and concave side, the gas, then what happens? The surface tension force will be doubled, because the surface tension acts from both, due to top portion of the gas and due to bottom portion of the gas. That means this is the surface and air is there at the top and air is there also at the bottom, for example air. So therefore from the bottom and the top we get at the same location the surface tension forces twice. That means this will be multiplied with the 2. So in case of a thin film, the curved surface has a thin film separating gases both on the concave and the convex sides, convex and the concave sides, then simply this will be doubled. That means this is delta P will be 2 sigma into 1 by R1 plus 1 by. Now again I tell the difference between these two, this is the pressure difference between the liquid surface, a curved liquid surface which demarcates a bulk of the liquid and a gas outside it. That means there is a liquid surface where this is the bulk of the liquid and this is gas. So this is the pressure difference. Where there is a film of liquid, thin film of liquid, where both the sides air or gas is there, in that case what happens? The surface tension occurs both by the pull of the interaction between the air molecules and the liquid molecules on this side, and air molecules and liquid molecules on the upper side. So a 2 times multiplication will be made here. So this is the formula for thin film or thin curved surfaces. Now few special cases I now just discuss. One is the spherical liquid drop. So spherical liquid drop means a sphere. That means it is a sphere full of liquid. So if outside pressure is P0, for example uniform ambient pressure is P0. So due to this curvature, because of surface tension, the inside pressure will be Pi. So in the liquid the pressure generated inside is Pi. So how I know this Pi minus P0? So simply I see this formula, sigma into 1 by R1 plus. What is the difference? Here R1 is equal to special case, R2 is equal to R. So delta P is equal to Pi minus P0 is simply 2 sigma by R, where R is the radius of the sphere. These of course can come from the simple fundamentals without using the formula that you can also make, that you cut. You can see how the forces act, that you can cut the surface. Then you take a half liquid sphere as a free body diagram. Then we can understand that here the surface tension force T acts. That means throughout the periphery. That means if you see from the top view, you see this is like this. This is like this. That means through the entire periphery, the surface tension force is acting. And this value of T is sigma into twice pi into R, if R is the radius of the sphere. That means it is in the entire periphery. That means if you cut the surface, this is the liquid, then you get a surface tension force coming as an external force. So these are the external P0 as it is outside, P0, these are the P0 as it is, and pressure force Pi then comes as an external force like this. So therefore you can write sigma into 2 pi r is equal to Pi minus P0 into pi r square, force balance. So, this will give you the same result. It is not necessary to do it from fundamentals, since we know that the general expression that delta P for a liquid surface curved in both the directions as sigma into 1 by R1 plus 1 by R2. We simply, in case of a spherical liquid drop, put that R1 is equal to R2 is equal to R. What happens in case of a spherical liquid bubble? Difference between that, the two is that spherical liquid bubble. In a spherical liquid drop, air is on one side and inside the liquid drop the full is water or the liquid. Here bubble contains air inside and outside. That means it is this general special case of this 2 sigma. That means in case of a curved surface which separates air on both the sides or gas on both the sides, concave and convex sides, the relationship is like that. So, here if I put R1 is equal to R2 is equal to R, we get delta P is equal to 4 sigma by R. So, therefore, delta P Pi minus P0 becomes equal to 4 sigma by R. That is, Pi is the, well, Pi is the inside pressure and P0 is the outside pressure. P0 is the outside pressure. Another limiting case, a special case is jet, water jet, which is a circular cross section. If jet of a circular cross section of radius r, then what formula we will use? It is a solid jet full of liquid, so you will use the formula. So, if the internal pressure is Pi and outside ambient pressure is P0, then Pi minus P0 will be what? 2, not 2, it is sigma into 1 by R1 plus 1 by R2. You will use this formula where we will use R1 is equal to R and R2 is equal to infinity. Very good. So, this becomes 0. So, delta P simply becomes equal to sigma by R. So, this is the value by which the inside pressure or internal pressure in a straight liquid jet is more than that of the outside ambient pressure. Now, well, I come to another phenomenon of surface tension known as capillarity. Probably you know this, you have already read at school level, that if in a beaker or in a container of liquid, if we dip a tube, we see that liquid rises in the tube. Sometimes liquid rises in the tube from the level of the liquid in the container, in the tube. Who is responsible for rising of that liquid in the tube, or who holds this extra amount of liquid height in the tube? That is purely the phenomenon of surface tension, or the surface tension force is responsible for that. In some cases we have seen that liquid, if there is a container containing liquid and a tube is dipped into it, the liquid doesn't come up to the surface of the liquid at the container. It goes up to a height which is lower than the height of the liquid level in the container. So, these two phenomena are known as capillary rise and capillary depression. Let us see that. Phenomena of capillarity. Phenomenon of capillarity. Okay. Phenomena of capillarity. What is this? Let us see this. If we take for example water, let this is water or any liquid, I can tell, and if we dip a tube, you will see the water comes, take an interface like this. An additional height of water comes like that, is raised like that. Now, who is responsible for holding this additional height of water? For example, here the pressure is atmospheric pressure, but here the pressure is the height of this water column. Let this height be h. So who is responsible to make this disbalance of pressure? That means there must be some upward force which is counterbalancing this pressure, or other way we can tell there must be some upward force which can hold the column of water which has been raised, and this force is the prime cause of raising the liquid through the tube from the level in the container. So this is known as capillary rise, and this happens to those liquids where adhesion between the liquid and the solid tube, this is the solid tube, is more than the cohesion. This happens. For water in a glass tube, the adhesion is more than the cohesion. So this is marked in case of water in a glass tube. It is found in some other cases, for example, mercury in a, rather here you can take mercury in a glass tube. That means if you have mercury in a trough and put a tube like that, you will see the mercury will not come up here. So mercury will, the mercury interface will go like that. So there will be a mercury like that. So this place, in this space there is no mercury. So therefore the mercury level here in the container up to this, but mercury will not come up to this. That means who is the, what is the force that is responsible to create this disbalance? That means to make up this, here the pressure is atmospheric pressure plus this height of the liquid, but here pressure is atmospheric pressure plus this height of the liquid. Let this is the depression, this height is the height depression of the liquid, here it is the rise. So that means this is the depression, so here the pressure is less. So there must be some additional force in the downward direction to make a balance between these two. What is that? That is the surface tension force. What happens physically, now let me explain. Because of this adhesion being more than the cohesion, the liquid particles are dragged along the solid surface, by virtue of which the liquid is pulled. Depending upon the surface tension force, the liquid height will be maintained. The liquid height will depend, or depending upon the surface tension force, the amount of liquid will be raised. Let us consider this amount of liquid raised up to the height h. So under this condition, if this is the interface, we can show that in this interface here the surface tension force T acts, surface tension force. This acts throughout the periphery in the linear element with an angle. Let this angle is theta. That means surface tension, the direction of the surface tension, this is tangent to this surface with this vertical surface of this tube, let this angle be theta. This angle is known as area contact angle. Area contact angle. So now this is the force. That means you see that if we take the component of this force in this vertical direction, that balances the weight of this column. You write this. Now T into, if we consider the diameter of this pipe is D, big D, diameter of the pipe is D. So T is equal to pi D into sigma. So therefore pi D sigma cos theta must balance the weight. If we neglect this portion, only take this cylindrical portion of the liquid weight, so this will be pi D square by 4, that is the area, times the height h into rho in volume into g. So this is the weight of this column of liquid. This is being balanced by the vertical component of the surface tension force. This gives rise to the value of h as, what is h? 4 sigma cos theta, 4 sigma cos theta, 4 sigma cos theta divided by what? By rho g d. Similar expression you will get for the capillary depression. The physical phenomena is that in this case cohesion is more than adhesion. So for liquid where cohesion is more than adhesion, that is adhesion is less than cohesion, then what happens? The liquid molecules will crowd within each other, and if their intermolecular forces drag them out to come out from the free surface. That means they come below the free surface, and what happens? The surface tension force will act in this direction. So therefore you see the vertical component of this surface tension force act in this direction, which is added up with the pressure of this less height, and will make the balance of the pressure here. And if this be the H, the difference you can find out is the weight of this column of liquid, which is an imaginary, it was not there. If this column, this liquid could have come up to this column, so this weight could have balanced. So from that balance you get the same expression H. So here one interesting phenomena comes, that the capillary rise or the capillary depression H is inversely proportional to D for a liquid of a particular value of sigma. So therefore this is observed only in small diameter tube. As the diameter of the tube becomes larger, so value of H becomes smaller, so that we cannot observe it. We do not observe it. That is why we sometimes tell the capillary rise takes place in a small tube. Oh, if you do an experiment in a very small tube, you have to give a correction for capillary rise. It does not mean that physically capillary rise or capillary depression is attached to the small tubes only. Capillary depression and capillary rise is a phenomena which is attached to any diameter tube. So liquid will always rise from this level in the container, and liquid will always goes with a depression from the level of the container, depending upon the fact whether adhesion is more than cohesion or adhesion is less than the cohesion. But the fact is that this rise is inversely proportional to the diameter. If diameter is bigger, this rise and depression is so negligible we cannot observe it. We see that the meniscus in the tube is at the same level of the liquid in the container where the tube is dipped and the bulk of the liquid exists. Well, so this is the phenomena of capillarity, and I think that I end it here with the surface tension. Before I close down the lecture, let us go through two very interesting problems. Let us see. First, example 1. Problem, please see. Problem 1. A body weighing 1000 Newton slides down at a uniform speed of 1 meter per second. Again, a body weighing 1000 Newton slides down at a uniform speed of 1 meter per second along a lubricated inclined plane, making 30-degree angle with the horizontal. Well, along a lubricated inclined plane making 30-degree angle with the horizontal. The viscosity of lubricant is 0.1 kg per meter second, 0.1 kg per meter second. This is the unit of the viscosity mu. You can see from the equation tau is equal to mu du dy, and the contact area of the body is 0.25 meter square. Well, determine the lubricant thickness assuming a linear velocity distribution. Assuming a linear velocity distribution. Well, so let me solve this problem. A body weighing 1000 Newton slides down at a uniform speed of 1 meter per second along a lubricated inclined plane, making 30-degree angle with the horizontal. The viscosity of lubricant is 0.1 kg per meter second, and the contact area of the body is 0.25 meter square. Determine the lubricant thickness assuming a linear velocity distribution. It's a very simple problem. So problem is like this. There is a, this is the area, this is 30 degree. Let this is the, in exaggerated view, thin film of the liquid, and this is the body which is moving with a velocity of u, this big capital velocity of one constant velocity of 1 meter per second. Now what are the forces acting on the body? You recognize, one is its weight acting downward, W is equal to 1000 Newton. Another is the drag force acting on the body, because body is sliding down because of its weight along the liquid, over a liquid film whose thickness, let we have to find out H. So this shear force, because of the flow, when the body flows down, moves in this direction, this induces a flow in the liquid, And when a flow in the liquid is set up, the liquid shear stress field is generated. So this shear stress gives the opposing force F on the body. So body is under equilibrium between the two forces W and F, because there is no inertia force, speed is uniform. So the simple force balance of the body is W. So this angle is 60 degree. So in this direction, W cos 60 degree is equal to F. Simple case, because this direction the dragging force is F and this is balanced by the component of the weight in this direction. So only thing from fluid mechanics is to find F. So because of this motion U, there is a motion which is being set up in the liquid, and it has been told in the problem you consider a linear velocity distribution. What will be the velocity distribution? As I have told in the earlier class, that no slip condition demands that the velocity of the fluid on this surface will be 0. Velocity of the fluid on this layer, what will be the velocity of the fluid on this layer? 0. How? 1 meter per second, that is U. That means I am drawing the velocity variation here itself. For clarity I am doing it here. It will be 1 meter per second because relative velocity is 0. That means it is moving with capital U. That is 1 meter per second. So therefore, the velocity profile will be U is equal to small u is equal to capital U into y by h. What is y? I consider y in this direction. Coordinate. H is the liquid film thickness which I have to find out. So therefore, du dy is constant in this case, which is capital U by h, linear velocity distribution. So therefore, slope is constant. So du dy is constant. So therefore, tau is mu into U by h. Very simple. Okay. So it is a linear velocity distribution from 0 to capital U. That is the speed of the solid body because of no slip condition. Now you write the value mu is 0.1 kg per meter second, U is 1 meter per second and h. So F will be tau into contact area. That means this is equal to 0.1 into 0.25 divided by h. So if you put this value of F and the value of W as 1000 newtons and cos 60 half, you get the value of h as 0.05 into 10 to the power minus 3 meter. All are in MKS unit, is equal to 0.05 millimeter. Alright, very simple problem, school level problem. Another problem which is a little tougher. Example 2, a spherical soap bubble, quick, a spherical soap bubble of diameter d1 coalesces with another bubble of diameter d2. One spherical soap bubble of diameter d1 coalesces with another bubble of diameter d2 to form a single bubble of diameter d3, single bubble, containing the same amount of air. That means the two bubbles air is equal to the air of the third bubble after coalescence. Assuming an isothermal process, derive an expression for d3 as a function of d1, d2, the ambient pressure P0 and the surface tension of soap solution in air. Surface tension of soap solution in air. So again I read, spherical soap bubble of diameter d1 coalesces with another bubble of diameter d2 to form a third single bubble of diameter d3 containing the same amount of air. Assuming an isothermal process, that means the process is isothermal of coalitions process. This is a process constant given, otherwise we cannot solve. Derive an expression for d3 as a function of d1, d2, the ambient pressure P0 and the surface tension of soap solution. Okay, very simple problem. Let us see that. Let us consider a soap bubble of diameter d1. Let us consider the mass of air inside is m1. Let us consider another soap bubble of diameter d2 and mass of air let m2. Two coalesces and after coalescence they form a soap bubble of diameter d3 and let the mass of the air m3. Now what physics will be followed? What are the conservation? What are the things which are conserved after coalescence? One is the mass. mass of the air, it has been told. That means M1 plus M2 is equal to M3. Now let the pressure inside the soap bubble is P1, inside this soap bubble is P2 and inside this soap bubble is P3. And there is no such direct relationship at present we get from between P1, P2, P3. Let the volume of this soap bubble is V1. Let the volume of this soap bubble is V2 with a cut, and let the volume of this soap bubble is V3. Now what we can do now, how can we relate these P's? We can relate these P's in two ways. Ambient pressure is P0. One is the surface tension which can determine the difference of P1 from P0, difference of P2 from P0, same ambient pressure, and difference of P3 from P0. But to relate P1, P2, P3, we will have to take the help of the ideal gas laws. We will consider the air in the bubble to behave as an ideal gas. We will consider the air in the bubble to behave as an ideal gas. This constraint or this condition or this assumption you will have to take. Then only we can relate the pressure and the volume. So if we write this for the first bubble, P1 V1 is equal to M1, R is the characteristic gas constant and T is the temperature. Another condition given, the temperatures are same. That means the process is isothermal. Temperature of the air in this bubble and the temperature of the air in this bubble, and after the coalescence for the single bubble remains same as T. You know the equation of state for an ideal gas states that P into V, that the pressure and the volume of the gas is equal to the if a mass of gas M occupies a volume V and the pressure exerted is P, PV is equal to mRT, where T is the characteristic gas constant. This I can write for the first bubble, and I can also write for the second bubble the same equation with the same characteristic gas constant, because the same air with the same temperature T, since the process is isothermal. If we add these two, we get P1 plus P2, we get P1 V1 plus P2 V2 is equal to M1 plus M2 into RT is equal to M3 into RT, because M1 plus M2 is M3. Again M3 into RT can be written as P3. What is M3 into RT? Is equal to P3 V3. So therefore we get from this P1 V1 plus P2 V2 is equal to P3 V3. Now we can write P1 is equal to, from the surface tension concept, P0 plus, if you recall this, 4 sigma by R, that means 8 sigma by D1, because it is a bubble. Similarly, we can write P2 is P0 plus 8 sigma by D2, and similarly we can write P3 is equal to P0 plus 8 sigma by D3. And V1 is proportional to D1 cube, V2 is proportional to D2 cube, and V3 is D3 cube. If you write this, you get 8 sigma by D1 into D1 cube. Pi will be cancelling, so that P0 plus 8 sigma by D2 into D2 cube is equal to P0 plus 8 sigma. So this is the required expression. So if I know the values for D1, D2, sigma and P0, I can find out D3. So this is the required expression for the final diameter of the final single bubble in terms of the diameter of the individual bubbles, the ambient pressure and the surface tension of the soap solution. Well, so with this I conclude this lecture on introduction and fundamental concept. So next class I will start the fluid statics. So introduction and the fundamental concepts, which covers the basic properties of the fluid, and this concludes this section of the lecture. So next class I will start fluid statics. Thank you.